It's the final match of the Asia Pacific Grandmasters here today, and we have DawN versus Glory coming right up, and we're going to get back right into it. We had a little bit of a break with one Rogue mirror, but we've got a Mage versus Rogue once again, so that's 4 out of 5 matchups today were Mage versus Rogue. Let's check out Glory's deck list, as he is going to be the Rogue player for the day. We can see what he's decided to bring for his primary deck. You want to break it down for us, Language Hacker?
Sure, very similar to a lot of the other decks we've seen today, with the inclusion of Ziliax, but no Chef's Nomi in the main list. A Bloodseal Corsair, another nod to Rogues, 1 Sap. Otherwise, very pretty standard, 2 Shadow Steps.
Yeah, and how do you think this, I'll call it just the base Rogue list, how do you think it performs versus Cyclone Mage?
It performs okay. You need something early. Like, we've been seeing a lot of players just play out like something on turn 3, just say hit them in the head quickly before they can get stuff online. So, I mean, Rogue in general is good at doing that. Life Drinkers come down a little bit slow, so Henge Clan Thugs would help in that sense, and we don't see that in the primary list, although that will be in the tertiary list for Glory, so we'll see after game 1 if that happens. But yeah.
Yeah, I do wonder, for example, I wonder if there's enough space in the primary deck for, say, next week for Rogues. If they could maybe play 1 Walk the Plank, maybe, and, just get 1 in there in your primary deck. It's definitely not the worst card in the world, even against other decks, other classes. It's a decent enough answer to Van Cleef as well in the mirror.
It could help in the mirror.
It really isn't horrendous. You look at some of the more aggressive styles of Bomb Warrior play, where they could play an Omega Devastator on 4, where you can just
get rid of it.
The Plank pass. I mean, it's not the best turn, but then versus Mage, you've got it in game 1,
yeah, it's still a tool,
which can help. So, maybe we see players lean over to that. But yeah, pretty much standard Rogue list we've been used to seeing this weekend, or at least for an opener. A small note that won't come into it, but again, the 1 Bloodseal Corsair is weapon removal in the primary deck. Not really a big deal versus Mage, but just definitely a slot that you could have there. But let's take a look at DawN's list, which is going to be the Cyclone Mage, and this is going to be his primary version there. And again, this is looking fairly standard, with a sprinkling of spice on top with that Antonidas. What does this achieve, Language Hack?
Well, so the Cyclone Mage, ironically, Conjurer's Calling was a kind of archetype you'd use in Mage to target Warrior, but when you switch to the Cyclone Mage, you end up losing quite a bit of percentages, which is why we see people taking an Astromancer and Antonidas. That helps the matchup quite a bit. If the Warrior has a quick answer for your Mountain Giant, and you don't have much else to put on the board, you have maybe Apprentices or Mana Cyclones, so the Antonidas is a good way to late game get some extra burst out, and against even some other decks, if you're kind of staying toe for toe onto the board, eventually just you play an Antonidas and then make a couple fireballs and can get you there. Won't help that much against Rogue, but we'll see.
Yeah, well, we've seen the Cyclone lists mainly from Rivius and Tyler so far in the league, and those are more of a slightly different style. This is much more like the list you'll see, say, on Ladder, or at least previous to this weekend you'll see on Ladder, because there is the Banana Buffoon as well, which generates not only spells to help with Antonidas, to help with Mana Cyclone, there's 0 cost when you play a Sorcerer's Apprentice, but also it's a playable minion early on 3, that ups your hand size to help for Giants. So just that 1 card, it seems at least it seemed underwhelming when it came out.
Right.
It actually fills more like, 3 different roles in this deck for just 1 card. Very, very powerful. And like I said, probably more of the standardized list you'll see on Ladder. And I believe at least the majority of the list was 1 APX Void, at least popularized.
Yep.
Probably made, as he makes. I choose to believe every Mage list in existence, but at least popularized with the Antonidas and the way that build just works together with the Harrison Jones. And Harrison will also help, along with, I believe he is playing a Swamp.
Yeah, so DawN, one of the mages, opting to have the weapon removal in his primary deck. In his tertiary deck, he also has more weapon removal, but the fact that he has them in his primary deck means that he expects there to be a lot of Rogue, and that's why he chooses to keep it there, as opposed to Rivius and Tyler earlier today, we saw did not have weapon removal in the primary deck.
Right, and when you look at, the 2 Waggle picks are the 2 threats weapon-wise, and you have 2 answers, it does mean that Glory is going to have to consider it, right? What happens if you can't just play and always just hope it doesn't happen? You've got to play and go, if it does happen, what do I follow up with and how do I make this work? So let's kick it off and go into game number 1, Glory versus DawN. Glory on the Rogue, DawN on the Mage. Ooh,
DawN,
okay, that's a slow one.
DawN has a heavy start. Astromancer's not what you want to see going first against Rogue. Stargazer Luna can be played for tempo. Depends on the state of the hand, but the state of this hand, you might try to play it out for tempo. Maybe if you draw some cheap spells, you try to pair it together with that, maybe on turn 4, but...
And I can outline how powerful or how frustrating it is for DawN to have these Astromancers in the opening hand. Those two are 2 of the 5 cards he cut from the list he would like to play versus Rogue. So actually adding in Rabble Bouncers is the normal, you know, the choice where you make one or the other. So yeah, it's going to be a little bit slow, and did get the...
Played a Magic Trick on 1.
Rift, yeah.
Yeah, something to do on 2, increases your hand size and maybe gives you some playable minions. He does opt to play the Magic Trick on 1. What some players often do is hold it for Apprentice and Cyclone stuff later, but DawN realizes this hand's not doing a whole lot. I'm not going to be comboing a lot of things, so I need to play it now, spend the mana, try to find something to do, maybe find an Arcane Intellect, a Book of Specters, which isn't even necessarily what you want, but something to get this hand kind of rolling along.
Right.
Does play the Astral Rift on 2, gets some Dasta. I'm not sure there is a Banana Buffoon, but I'm not sure if you want that being pulled from your hand.
Imagine if that's the winning play. I'd love it so much.
That'd be interesting.
But still, I think most importantly, it's a card that, you know, 9 mana, very, very expensive, but it does have Rush, and it kills pretty much every rogue minion outside an Absurd Van Cleef. So at least it's just a card that in an emergency can be played to just, you know, kill something if it's, you know, there's one problem in the way.
Glory trying to figure out what the next few turns are looking like. Probably just Dagger. He could coin Raiding Party, but that doesn't let him do anything on turn 3 that he would otherwise be able to do.
And also, you know, speaking of DawN's hand, Glory's hand is not exactly fantastic either.
Yeah.
The coin shores up a few of the weaknesses, but when you just, you know, passing on 2 with not much to do on 3, it's looking a little bit rough. So maybe both players kind of got away with it,
right?
Because each other also had slow hands. It's not too bad, and suddenly Luna does require a response.
DawN knows that if there was a miscreant in hand, or perhaps a Raiding Party, there could have been a coin to that. So playing up the Luna doesn't give Glory, you know, like a backstab activator to use one of those minions, or the minion or the spell, because he could have already used the coin for that. So playing up the Luna, trying to contest board early, and obviously the payoff can be big depending on what is drawn for DawN off the top. Try to draw some extra cards with Luna, and even if he doesn't, this does require an answer from Glory, and maybe might stifle any early aggression that otherwise might have come out. Coin Raiding Party here.
Into backstab deckhand, I guess?
He could Deadly instead try to maybe bait out an Ooze. But, I mean, after playing Raiding Party, your opponent knows that there's a Waggle Pick hanging around.
Right. And also right now, the Ooze is the difference between taking 3 and not. So it's not really the most you know, biggest problem in the world to just take the hit from this dagger. There's the Banana Buffoon, which is going to, again, help with the hand size. And, you know, very often is just something to do with some mana in this mage list when you do have awkward hands like this.
Well, the reason it's in this deck, there's several reasons, actually. It works well with a lot of different cards. So adding the 2 bananas in hand, it acts as an Arcane Intellect of sorts. You spend 1 card to get 2 cards back into your hand. So when you have a hand with Giant, whether it's on coin or not, your hand size becomes bigger, allowing you to play the Giant quicker and you know, manipulate the mana that way. It can be used with Sorcerer's Apprentice and Mana Cyclone to generate more cards back, and particularly in this list with Antonidas, you can use it to make fireballs, trading some potassium for some fire.
It does. It also just continues to just display something that we've known has been powerful in Hearthstone for a long time, probably mainly down to Discover. But cards that generate cards are normally quite powerful, right? You look at even the way Mana Cyclone works is, well, if you consider these 2 bananas, so 2 cards were made from 1 card, that also then gets you 2 extra cards when combined with a Mana Cyclone. So the value just never ends, and when the hand size is big, your options are big and wide, so it means you can make the most informed and best plays possible. And in that turn, Glory just did use that weapon up and get some pirates on the board. And now it's all on DawN as to how he chooses to defend here.
So the previous turn, actually, I want to point this out. DawN went Banana Buffoon, but didn't let it just die to the weapon. He used Mirror Images to try and protect it. And this way, he might have been able to use the banana or the ping in combination with the Banana Buffoon to clear something that Glory would have developed. Unfortunately, Glory had both South Sea deckhands. The Mirror Images got kind of swept aside, and the Banana Buffoon died. But it did soak up some damage.
And the small shake of the head and the smile, just seeing the Murloc obviously generate minion.
Glory's like,
Astral
I
Rift.
guess.
So really now, Glory is the Blood Elf in that cinematic, and DawN is the Paladin just going, throwing Murlocs down, and Glory's just like, come on, they're Murlocs, they're already dead.
So this isn't normally how this game goes. I mean, DawN had some early mana spending that allowed him to kind of, fight for the board, or like allowed him to get to position where he could fight for the board with the Banana Buffoon. And he's at 30 health in turn 5. These Astromancers we were saying, oh, these might be too slow. We're getting to a point where they might just be played and they might be okay. And as I say that, some Dread Corsair comes down, and the Bloodsail Corsair.
Yeah, it's another like wave of pressure, but the pressure isn't insurmountable, right?
Yep.
They're not the most threatening minions in the world for DawN to try and deal with, and that is a very, very timely Mr. Jones.
It's not bad. Yeah.
Can even depend on what's bounced. Use a Ray of Frost on the 3/3.
Yep.
Which wouldn't be too shabby. Yeah, I like it.
Why
not at this point?
Yeah. Either save some health for yourself or make the Harrison harder to kill off.
And again, in terms of just looking at the turn 7 play, Ray of Frost doesn't lose you a card in hand.
Yep.
So you've not lost out any power even in the following turns. You've just potentially gained it with keeping a Harrison on hand.
Astromancer might end up being too slow depending on what Glory does this turn. There are so many options. Life Drinker Viscerate cleanly kills the Harrison while still developing stuff on board. You could sap this. Also, you have another Waggle Pick, so I don't know if you want that. You could just Waggle Pick it down. Save the Viscerate for face. Ziliax lets you clear it as well, but it's just a little clunky, so it's probably not what's going to come down. With the Harrison gone, so there's one Harrison Drones and one copy of Acidic Swamp Ooze. So with one of these two out of the way, Glory might say, all right, let's just get the second Waggle Pick online and try to make use of it.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind it too much. The only problem here that he has to consider is if you played Waggle Pick and the Ooze was there, then he's in trouble. And the thing you got to think about is DawN's played a whole lot of nothing this game, so cards that Glory could put him on are tech cards, right? You know, the Ooze, he saw the Harrison come out, so it's not too crazy to think that DawN might have the Ooze, because there's probably not a Conjurer's Call in, there's probably not any of the early combo cards because he would have seen them. You know, if there was a
Conjurer's Calling. When you play the Banana Buffoon and try to protect it, that might allude to a Conjurer's Calling,
maybe. 2 5/5s aren't too terrible right now, but Glory's just saying go.
Yeah, you have Conjurer's Calling, you have it. There are some 7-drop taunts, but I mean, Conjurer's Calling is nowhere to be seen right now.
Also, he has like Life Drinker, Shadow Step, Life Drinker, Abyss, which is, that's just 10 damage right there.
Launching the Abyss face
just
now.
A lot, yeah. He needs to do 2 damage next turn, not from hand. And he just wins, and there's nothing DawN can really do about it.
This is actually interesting what Glory did here. Sending the Eviscerate upstairs means that next turn on 8 mana, he could go Life Drinker, Shadow Step, Life Drinker for 6 mana, and Dagger, which would actually only be 7.
Yeah. He needs something to hit, right?
Yeah.
But if one minion hits, he almost always gets lethal outside of taunts, so that's all he's worried about right now. But also, I don't mind you if you're convinced the Eviscerate is always going to end up at face, use the mana now.
Yeah.
Because he might draw Myra's next turn. He might draw, Leroy next turn, for example, that changes the way he might play with that Shadow Step as well.
Rough seeing the deck can get bounced. So the Conjurer's Calling pickup.
Wait, that's good for him though, isn't it?
I think he would have rather had one of the bigger minions.
But it's lethal, right? If he could Dagger and there's no taunts.
No, I'm saying DawN was upset that
that
got
sorry,
bounced.
I thought you meant Glory. I was like, wait, what? That's actually really good for Glory. My apologies. And that's actually just lethal. Wow.
So the Conjurer's Calling gave DawN a way to stop the lethal damage, but unfortunately what's in the box did not have a shield on it.
And you can't, not that it would matter for this turn, but you cannot Ray of Frost face.
Right.
And yeah, that's just, he did draw the Myras as well. See, the Abyss was so sick.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is a really powerful turn, and this is literally why Life Drinkers are ran in Rogue, is that it's damage that no one can do anything about. your opponent often can't deal with it. It's just Battlecry, deal 3. You can't stop that happening. So Glory takes a game there. It was off to a relatively slow start, but then the game kind of picked up very quickly as soon as raiding parties and the rogue got a little bit more aggressive.
Do you remember 2 turns ago when DawN had 30 health?
Yes.
I don't think DawN remembers that. That happened really quickly.
Or maybe everyone remembers it because it was literally like 10 seconds.
Oh, right.
It was so quick that it just went out of control, and both decks being a little bit slow there. But again, it's the one thing I'm seeing with this Cyclone Mage is the second you just don't quite draw some combination of cards, you just lose out a little bit too much. But that was only game 1, and there's still plenty to play for as this best of 3. So maybe only one more game, but most certainly no more than 2 extra. This is the last series of the day, so don't go anywhere, and we'll be right back.
We recently revealed Hearthstone's all-new 3-tiered esports program. Masters qualifiers are already well underway, and now we're ready to share details on the highest level of competitive play, Hearthstone Grandmasters. Are you ready to unlock all the secrets of Hearthstone Grandmasters?
Come close and listen.
Here goes. Hearthstone Grandmasters is the pinnacle of Hearthstone esports, composed of 48 of the best pro players in the entire world. Grandmasters is divided into 3 regions: Americas, Europe, and Asia Pacific, with each represented by 16 pros. These pros are selected by special invitation from Blizzard Entertainment. Criteria for selection include lifetime earnings, Hearthstone competitive points earned, contributions to the Hearthstone community, and more. So who are the lucky Grandmasters? Stay tuned, because in the coming weeks we'll be revealing the inaugural Grandmaster roster region by region. In 2019, there will be 2 seasons of Hearthstone Grandmasters. Each season will feature 8 weeks of world-class competition played out in online tournaments. Grandmasters pros will earn both prize money and performance-based bonuses during the season, and they will automatically qualify to compete at all Hearthstone Masters Tour events, guaranteeing these marquee tournaments feature the fiercest competitors possible. And the best part? You won't miss a second of the action, because matches will be broadcast live on twitch.tv/playhearthstone. 5 matches will be broadcast every Friday, with 5 more every Saturday. And if that isn't enough Hearthstone action, there will be 6 matches broadcast every Sunday.
More souls!
Mark your calendars, because the first season begins on May 17th. Hearthstone Grandmasters is the pinnacle of professional Hearthstone, where the world's best pros battle it out every weekend online. Think you've got what it takes to reach the top? The path to Grandmasters starts with our Masters qualifier tournaments, so sign up today.
We're back with DawN versus Glory game number 2. Game number 1, game number 1 actually went to Glory with just some extreme levels of aggression out of nowhere. But again, just these weapons just getting the job done, and Rogue proving time and time again that the burst damage from hand, I feel, is the biggest threat that this deck has to offer.
Right, even with the weapon removal coming out from DawN, the Harrison, Glory just found a way to keep pushing damage.
Yeah, and both players have moved on to their tertiary deck, which means that the mage deck, very similar to what we've seen from other styles, is going to be taking out that Buffoon, the banana guy, Stargazer Luna, Archmage Antonidas, and 2 Astromancers, and the replacement being an additional Swampoo, so that's 3 weapon removals, and then 2 Vex Crows and 2 Rabble Bouncers.
But Glory's,
Glory
and on
look like?
Glory's side, he's taken out a Shadow Step, a Bloodseal Corsair, 2 Life Drinkers, and a Ziliax to add in a second Sap, 2 Henge Clan Thugs that we've seen have been so powerful, and 2 Walk the Planks.
Okay, well, who do you think gets the better end of the stick when it comes to these tertiary decks here?
Well, the thing is, I think the techs of the Saps and Walk the Planks have been a lot more powerful against the old version of Conjurer's Mage because they're only developing one thing a turn, and it's very easy, unless they, go Giant Coin Conj, but that's a whole different story. Having this sort of like one answer for one minion is good against the old Conjurer's Mage, but against this like Cyclone Mage, you end up either getting a bunch of things on board at once, like maybe mirror images into Giant and then conjuring, like the Sea
and also
Giant.
the Vex Crows.
Yeah,
right?
and the Vex Crows as well. I think the Vex Crows are a good addition to help combat the tech cards the Rogues are putting in. So we'll see if those pay off.
And I think on top of that, just going deep on the weapon removal, the extra ooze means you've got 3 weapon removals, which means it's less that you're going to plan on using all 3, but more that it's more likely you draw 1 or 2, which means that there's just something that he's actually going to have to deal with. And we see DawN already utilizing the fact he has extra weapon removal. This is a spare ooze, so to speak, and just saying, actually, I'm going to gain tempo here in this matchup and see what you can do, because the follow-up, Arcane Intellect, and then the Sorcerer's Apprentice, there's Ray of Frost, there's a lot that DawN can do here.
This is actually interesting. I think the reason that DawN played out the ooze there is that Glory didn't swing on 2, which could tip the hat off to DawN that there might be a Henge Clan Thug in hand. And against Henge Clan Thug, Mage has trouble, so playing out the ooze there stops the Henge Clan Thug, at least from DawN's perspective, from coming out. Interestingly enough, from Glory's side, this gave him something to backstab to activate the Miscreant.
It's tough, isn't it? It's kind of upsides and downsides to both plays, and you've just got to make a decision, stick to one, I guess. Van Cleef is going to come out not as big as we're used to seeing it, and DawN could make a slightly bigger giant himself.
So we're 1 turn off from being able to go Vex Crow, Coin, Apprentice, and then some cheap spells. So I expect that DawN to just play up the Giant. Without a Conjurer's Calling in hand, there's not a whole lot of reason to hold on to it.
You're not going to do the fancy play.
Exactly.
No, Van Cleef plus the Eviscerate, if activated with combo, will deal with this.
Tech cards aren't there, no Saps, no Walk the Plank, so this Giant's going to have to either be taken down the old-fashioned way or ignored. I'm expecting Glory to clean it up, though. Taking 8 on the noggin to keep 1/5 alive.
I do like it, to be honest.
Yep.
Like, at this point, the damage from Mage, often when the Mage has lethal, they've already won the game.
Oh my goodness.
It doesn't really matter, but now...
With this pickup and the Elemental Vacation in hand, you can go Vex Crow, Coin, Apprentice, and do some crazy stuff. DawN will have to keep in mind what the board looks like, because if he plays too many spells, then the Cyclone can't come down because too many minions will be generated from the Vex Crow. But I think he'll be able to navigate this just fine.
Yeah, one more. Just play the Evocation and go, right?
Oh, he does have space to play 1 Ray of Frost if he'd like to.
Yeah, I don't think you need to. You don't
I
need to go all in, right? Double Snap Freeze. That's going to put a stopper on any big threats that Glory have. It might not be the most mind-blowing Cyclone there with the Arcane Explosion, Snap Freeze, and the Buck.
But look at the board.
Yeah, the board's great. The Buck is kind of pointless, but the Snap Freeze and Arcane Explosion can still get work done.
Yeah. So holding back on the Ray of Frost, parroting with the Magic Trick pull of the Snap Freeze, gives him a way to deal with this Edwin without having to trade minions into it, which might be what why DawN held back the one Snap Freeze. The second half of the Ray of the Frost.
And also, after seeing Backstab and some other little pieces of removal, such as the Lackey
And an Eviscerate.
Yeah, it means that this board state probably isn't going to get much smaller, which means that this Sea Giant is going to get live awfully quick.
Glory has to decide how to pick away at this board and how much of it to pick away.
I think we might see very quickly, the double 3-drop this turn, and then just prep Myra's go the turn after and say, I need to do this quick.
He's
got to do it now.
He needs to do it now.
Ooh, okay.
He doesn't think that the 3/3 play is going to be good enough.
Well, I think either way, this game's going to be over very, very quickly here, as Glory's saying, okay, I'm pulling the trigger. There goes the Myras. What have I got to play with? And I'm holding my breath because the rope dinged.
I wonder if he wanted, if Glory wanted to hold on to the SI before the Myras. He went prep, then Myras, then decided to SI. So it's possible he would have been looking for a waggle pick to equip this turn instead of the SI agent. The SI
Or even if he
nation.
drew a second backstab, for example, he could have done he
Right.
could have done something else as well. He didn't necessarily have to use the SI on that minion, and maybe could have saved it for face, for example.
Yep.
That
See
nice,
Giant come down.
beautiful 0 mana 8/8.
Conjurer's Calling picked up. No 10 mana taunts. 10 mana is interesting mana cost. There's a lot of cute minions you can get here. Hakar, which would hilariously be interesting in this spot, but not quite what he's looking for.
Well, it would be nuts, right? Because he would Hakar and then Conjurer's Calling it.
Right, but it wouldn't cause Glory to die immediately. There'd still be some few
Yeah,
turns.
yeah. So it would only be a couple though, right? Because don't you die very quickly?
Well,
when,
you're at
'cause
18 as well. You might die yourself.
That's true. Yeah, that's true. But you do draw you end up drawing every blood, right?
You
That's in
draw the
deck,
blood,
and
then
you
fatigue.
fatigue.
Right.
But if the more it shuffles, you end up drawing like every blood
Right.
until you fatigue. So it's only a couple of turns. Oh,
Right.
the two 4/12 dragons just high-fiving there on the side. Like, hey
So
guys.
DawN clearing up as much of the board as he can while developing as much as he can to try and set up a lethal for Glory. I don't think he wants to give Glory too many turns to be able to swing back and try to kill him.
So now I believe there needs to be a weapon setup along with the Corsair
Right.
to set up for, say, Leroy Eviscerate, for
And
example.
DawN has the Harrison ready, so he knows that if he just builds a big board and Glory commits to a weapon, that he should be able to swing the game back. Glory does not have a waggle pick. In fact, he does not have a whole lot of anything. He has Leroy's step, but he needs to find some other way to get to that point, because
So-
that does cost 8 mana.
Yeah, he would have loved just deal 2, because
Mhm.
he would deal 2 to face, then Eviscerate, put him to 12, Leroy, Shout Step Leroy. If he got the right lackey.
Right.
Yeah. I can't remember the deal 2. Is it just Kobold Lackey? Is that?
Yeah, cool.
Oh, it's just called Kobold Lackey? Okay, cool.
18 damage on board for DawN. With a ping, it's 19. And the second fatigue draw will kill Glory. So Glory does have to at least kill the Cloak Scale Chemist on the right to stay
Which is
alive.
fine, because he floats 1 mana anyway, right?
With the
Oh,
Dread
he's gonna
Corsair, it
taunt,
does
okay.
stop. Right.
I actually couldn't quite see, even though I should know how it works, I just didn't quite see the 1 mana cost on the Corsair because of the way the overlay is.
Right. This should be lethal if DawN can spot it. He can use Ray of Frost plus Snap Freeze to kill the Dread Corsair. He's got 18 on board, 19 with the ping, and the 2 damage fatigue will be exactly 21 damage.
Looks good to me. Yeah,
Goes
just
for
in
the
case
double
you know
snap
what Snap
freeze.
Freeze does. It freezes a minion, and if it's already frozen, it kills the minion regardless of anything else. So that opens up the sheer level of insane damage he has available to him. Even with those, mediocre attack value 10
Yeah.
drops of the 2 dragons, it's still going to be enough. Boom. The fatigue finishes the game, and DawN evens it up. He is not going to be swept by Glory's Rogue, and he's going to be able to continue and fight. And honestly, have we seen a single walk the plank?
I don't believe we
Used?
have, no?
It's been teched in every rogue against every mage in the matchup. We've had 4 of them today, and we had, I think, 1 or 2 yesterday, 1
Right.
maybe. And I don't think I've seen a single walk the plank drawn
Actually,
and
even
used.
with the Myras, that's incredible. Actually, I think we did see one drawn earlier, either today or
Was
yesterday.
it on the Sea
was
Giant?
There was one. I don't think it was played. It was just drawn at some point in a previous match.
Crazy when some of the tech choices you want. It must be infuriating as a player. I built this specific deck to beat
2
this.
Octoplanks,
and I
2
do-
saps,
and I
yeah.
don't draw them. Must be rough. But anyway, DawN managed to hold on and even it up 1-on-1. We've only got 1 more game left, guys, so don't go anywhere, and we'll be right back.
Welcome to Hearthstone Masters. Today, we're going to share one of the biggest changes coming to Hearthstone in 2019, an entirely new competitive format called Specialist. Specialist will be the default competitive format for Hearthstone Masters. From online Masters qualifiers to live Masters Tour events to the pinnacle of competition, Hearthstone Grandmasters. Ready to learn how the new Specialist format works? Let's dive right in. In this new competitive format, players select 3 30-card decks to bring to a Specialist tournament. The catch? All decks must be from the same class. In this regard, Specialist is a major departure from most other competitive formats. Amongst every player's 3 Specialist decks, One is designated as the primary deck. The player's other 2 decks are designated as secondary and tertiary decks. There are no special limitations placed on a player's primary deck aside from regular Hearthstone deck construction rules. However, a player's secondary and tertiary decks must share at least 25 cards in common with their primary deck. In other words, secondary and tertiary decks must mirror the primary deck with up to 5 cards swapped out. It is important to point out that duplicate cards count when comparing to a primary deck. For example, if you want to include 2 copies of Twilight Drake in your secondary deck, and there are no copies of Twilight Drake in your primary deck, then you must spend 2 swaps to include both cards. Unique or not, if a card isn't in your primary deck, it counts towards the 5-card difference limit. A player's primary deck is important for another reason. Whenever a new match starts, both its players must begin by piloting their primary deck. Only after the first game concludes can you choose to swap into your secondary or tertiary deck. You do not announce which of your decks you will be using in the next game, and you do not have to swap. After every game, this process repeats, allowing players to swap or stay until the match concludes. Importantly, you can swap to any of your decks between games, primary, secondary, or tertiary, including returning to your primary deck if you have previously swapped out of it. And those are all the rules for Specialists, Hearthstone's new official competitive format. So what are you waiting for? Get out there and start brewing your own primary, secondary, and tertiary decks to get a jump start on the new format and innovate like the pros.
Let the battle begin!
Now the cards show me a tinker, so clever, but kind of a stinker. In a storm that's a raging, sits the last one I'm paging, a truly unusual thinker. All bots are now gonna go boom, but still, you shouldn't assume that I've made this selection on my own direction.
No, indeed, let's be clear. I have brought you all here, and now you're all in. It is time to begin.
DawN takes on Glory in this final game of the day. They're currently all even 1-1, with DawN on the Mage and Glory on the Rogue, and it's all coming down to this. I'm going to check they're locking in these tertiary decks again, and does this mean that DawN just continues to have an advantage based on the tech choices he's made?
I think the Vextros and the extra Ooze and the Rabble Bouncers are definitely going to help DawN a lot. I mean, unfortunately, Glory, we didn't see any of the Walk the Planks last game, so perhaps if they show up this game, we'll see a bit of more of an even game.
Okay, well, let's get straight into it. No time for messing about. DawN keeping the Elemental Evocation. Before we get into Glory, like, what do you think about that? I mean, you play tons of Mage, right? So is this something you would do, just a single keep?
So I've thought about keeping Elemental Evocation by itself quite a bit, but I haven't played around with it just yet. It might feel a bit better on the coin because you have the chance of drawing the Giant and the Cyclone. Obviously, the Elemental Evocation with the Giant on the play isn't that great because it's still a long time before he can come online. But with the coin, it makes it a bit easier to come down. So the only reason he'd be keeping the Elemental Evocation is either for the Mana Cyclone to try and get some early card generation, or specifically for this matchup with the Tertiary deck, he might just want it with the Vexcro to create a 2-drop.
Yeah, sure. Just on turn 4, just play Vexcro into that and just say, you know what, a 3/3 and a 2-drop is actually just enough in some cases. Okay, so Glory, as always. Oh, wow, he doesn't have a Mystical in his opening hand. First time for everything. But there is a Walk the Plank. We see it. It exists.
Yeah.
It is there. And most importantly, there's also follow-up with this Raiding Party as well.
Classic turn to ping from DawN. Or from the Mage, I'd say. That happens a lot.
no matter what class DawN plays, is like ping.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
Wait, how? How? He's playing Warrior. Ping, turn 2. You're like, what? Okay, Conjurer's Call. At least he's got it locked in now, so he does have it available. But I will say, just triple weapon removal, I feel like nullifies so much of the power plays from Glory and the Rogue here. That, you know, this raiding party normally fantastic. Well, we can see at least that it's already going to be removed a little bit, or it could be if DawN didn't make this play, very similar to the previous game.
Yeah. From Glory's side, having 2 deadly poisons, keeping the dagger on 2 charges does make a lot of sense in case he wants to a deadly poison to kill out just an apprentice coming out, perhaps.
This is pretty nutty though. He could actually just prep raiding party, see which pirates he gets, then either dagger and just deckhand to kill the 3/2, or coin the weapon and say maybe double corset.
Looks like he's gonna settle on just dagger deadly.
Okay. I guess he's trying to just make as many weapons as possible.
Yeah, that's the thing. You
Because
don't have to go super tall in one weapon. You can go across many weapons.
If 2 deadly poisons count as 2 more weapons, then technically DawN has, Glory has 1 weapon that will not be removed by a hard weapon removal. A classic turn 4 ping from DawN.
Of course. No arcane intellect. This is one of the cases where it's difficult for the mage to come back. You're on the play. You don't have coin. You don't have the extra card. If you don't have enough cards that can string together to make a sort of game plan, you could fall apart.
Yeah, it's looking kind of tough, isn't it? This Giant's off into the distance right now, a long way away.
Yeah.
This Glory's going to start turning up the heat with this prep raiding party.
DawN's hoping. No Edwin, please.
Oh, it looks like an Edwin as well, doesn't
does.
it? You know, with the one
like,
drop, and you're like, no!
He's like, wait a second.
Okay.
Okay.
And with arcane missiles as well, definitely not the worst outcome that could have happened.
You could even just play out a Rabble Bouncer, especially the second popping up. You could play
Rabble
Ziliax.
Bounce, could Rabble Bounce and then arcane missiles.
Exactly. The thing with Ziliax is it cleanly uses all your 5 mana and it kills the Dread Corsair, but the Rabble Bouncers are harder to play, and the payoff can be pretty big. If this Rabble Bouncer sticks around, you have Conjurer's Calling, make 2 7-drops.
Past turn 5, Ziliax is just always good.
This
right?
was beautiful. Killed both deck. Yeah, you see Glory like, oh, that's
I love the way
rough.
DawN's even surprised himself. He was like, oh.
I guess that works sometimes, yeah.
Oh, sick. Yeah. Especially just the 1 ping to the 3/2 means that there's no value trade. But there's a walk the plank. You see the little fishies there dive out after the kill. So this allows Glory to keep pushing. You see the value of the card now, right?
Yeah.
In the matchup. Oh, you put a big awkward minion in the way. 4 mana gone. I'm going to keep pressuring you.
Let's do it again. See if you have another thing. So DawN knows that Glory has at least a Waggle pick in hand because of the raiding party that came out earlier. So Glory could, if he wants to, just trade 7 damage to this Rabble Bouncer, get it off the board. So DawN knows that this is probably going to fall over, and past this, what's his game plan? I guess with the Harrison draw, he wants the weapon to come out so that he can just get rid of it, take the card draw, get closer to Giant Conch Calling.
I'd be a little bit surprised. He's going to coin, okay. I wondered if he was going to actually just swing and then Evis and just push 3 more. But with this, you equip the weapon, you save the Eviscerate for face damage, and you just develop a bigger minion. We can see, obviously, that it's going to be completely blown out of the water with this Harrison play.
This Harrison's going to be right on. Perfect.
Yep.
HenchClan gets bounced back. HenchClan Thugs were originally running the Rogueless, but people found they were a bit too clunky with the Waggle picks, especially when people started taking weapon removal. It turns out like the HenchClan being bounced is kind of frustrating. And although it is good against the Mana Cyclone Mage because there's not an early answer for it, you still can't get punished with weapon removal when the HenchClan's out.
Yeah, I love this point in the game as well, because right now I'm going to guess what Glory's thinking. Okay, he removed 2 weapons. I pick, I deadly poison, I play my thug and go chuck everything to face, and then either Leroy based on the next draw, or just Myra's Hope at this point, because he is falling behind so hard that you have to all in. And to me, this is the true power of Rogue. When things are going a little bit bad, you just press the emergency button that is Myra's, and you can still just win.
Yeah,
and
the
that's
Myra's
the
just
way
got
it
picked
is,
up, so that signals the Glory along with the Harrison. All right, let's get there. Put DawN down to 10 health. Let's escalate this.
So there could be the Evocation Giant into Conjurers and go for the taunts.
I'd be very surprised to see that. I think the safe mirror images coming out here would be the way to go, just because you can play either the Ziliax by itself with the images, or you can go images, even just a Giant, and then set up for the Conjurer's Calling next turn. That images draw is very important because it means that you don't have to take a gamble on either the Evocation Giant Conch Calling, or even just playing up the Zilix itself. If it gets sapped, you're dead to Leroy. Or in another Abyss, for example. So I think this is the most defensive line you can take. He can decide to go Conj Mana Cyclone as well, refill his hand a bit.
Why not? Yeah, why not at this point?
Make sure your hand stays a bit bigger so that you still have the option to go Mountain Giant, Conj Calling, perhaps.
And also,
next turn.
you can generate spells that win you the game, right? I mean,
Research Project.
Ice Barrier, for example, could be insane. Even damage to actually
Crossbolt
finish the game. Yeah.
to freeze his face as well. Research Project is actually very interesting, and it's most of the time you don't want to help your opponent draw cards, but when they have no cards left in the deck, Research Project just becomes Burst.
It's actually kind of, he's just one, right? Because Research Project fatigues him for what? He's going to take 1 Natsuko, 1, 2, so it's...
And then the 3, so you take 6 damage. So right now Research Project is going to do 6 damage. So depending on how Glory cracks this board...
It'll be more though, right? Because then you'll draw the following turn.
So Research Project makes both players draw 2 cards. So right now Glory would draw 1 fatigue damage, 2.
Oh, sure, yes, he's not drawn yet.
Yeah,
sorry,
drawn yet.
For some reason, I keep thinking Myra would for some reason, drew him an extra card, like past 0. But yeah, no, you're right, 6.
So Glory with 2 backstabs drawn can clean up the Ziliax without letting DawN heal. Debating if he wants to SI it or just miscreant with the other backstab. I think you want the SI on the board. Dread Corsair, and he saves the Waggle Pick. Is there some sort of lethal here? 7 plus the 6 damage we were talking about if you Conj Calling the Dread Corsair.
Well, Cinderstorm can be pretty sweet.
Barrier.
So if Cinderstorm is fortunate and puts the 2 to face...
Perhaps.
With the ping, it does it, right?
So DawN could take a Missile Cinderstorm, and with Conj Calling the Dread Corsair to get past that. Or just, actually, is this enough damage by itself?
Wait.
So 622, 7 plus 8, 15. No. So if you had gone Missile Cinderstorm, it would have been guaranteed. Another taunt from DawN. So he takes a more defensive option here. Since he can't set up guaranteed lethal, he's going for the Ice Barrier. Conjurer's Calling the Harrison left over, and it looks like another taunt.
I think you just pinged, right?
Yeah, I don't think
you don't need to research project. Research Project only gets better.
Right.
You know, as time goes on, it's only going to do more damage to Glory. And yeah, you know what? There's all the crazy wins, you know, and turns you could make that last turn, and if this hits this and this does that. Or you could just do this and pretty much guarantee a win anyway. Yep. So, you know, full respect to DawN there, just not getting carried away like I would have, and him just gone, you know what, this is a better play, it's stronger, I'm not susceptible to certain removal, and there's nothing that really gets him to 10. It's just going through checking. Has he just got the lethal threat anyway?
Nope. It had to be exactly Barrier.
Yeah, wow.
So if DawN didn't have the extra taunt there, it would have been a bit...
So he could have had lethal if he didn't play the Hench Clan, right?
The Hench Clan was 1 mana.
Oh, he would have gone to 2, not 3, right? He would have gone to 2, not 3, yeah.
So the Research Project is going to close out the game.
And there we go. DawN takes the win. That game was tricky.
No, that game was close. The Ice Barrier did end up winning DawN the game.
And that's one of the strengths, right? We can talk about Rogue and how powerful it is, and 100% I agree, I'm not crazy. Rogue's, of course, super powerful. But when you play against a deck that is strong, and on top of that, it can generate so many different outcomes, then you can't play around that many cards that you don't know about, right?
Right.
And this is the problem, like this mage deck, and I feel why it's very powerful, is you can win games you like shouldn't be able to win because you have cards that are outside of your 30 card pool. Let's check out the results, as that was the ending to day number 2 for us here in the Asia Pacific Grandmasters. Congratulations to DawN for that win over Glory. Extremely close series. Let's recap and see what happened early today. We can get the scores up right now, I think. Just so we can see what's gone on so far. We had another 5 matches today. Kicked off with Tom taking a quick 2-0 win over Rivius. And then Chonsu, once again, Rogues beating up Mages was the story of the day. But Tyler managed to turn that round just a little bit with a 2-0 sweep of himself. And then the day slowed up towards the end of the day, Language Hacker, where we had 2 2-1 matches, but both very close in the Rogue mirror, and another Rogue versus Mage. So any final thoughts on what we've seen today? What do you think of the Rogue versus Mage matchup, especially with the the tertiary decks.
So I personally thought with the cards that people are putting in there with the Vexcors and the Acidic Swamp Oozes and the Rabble Bouncers, it's helping the Mage matchup quite a bit, and I don't think it's necessarily rogue favorite as some people might have thought. I mean, all these tech cards are helping the Mage do well against the other meta decks, and this might cause the meta next week to switch more into favor of more Mages.
Yeah, maybe, and again, I think I'm pretty confident all these lists, even now after a few weeks of the expansion rotation, probably aren't optimized. You know, I'm pretty sure we see new versions of lists all the time and time again. So it's going to be an exciting a few weeks as we move into the league. But we still have a day tomorrow, one more day of this week for the Asia Pacific Grandmasters. And also, if this wasn't enough, there's plenty more Hearthstone coming up on twitch.tv/playshearthstone right here, which is going to be Europe Grandmasters coming up, followed by America. So as we said earlier, nearly 24 hours of Hearthstone a day every single weekend for you guys. Hope you enjoyed today. We definitely did, and we'll see you guys tomorrow. Goodbye.